디렉션에서 오신 분을 모시고 오늘 영상을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. Hello, welcome to Kim Securities. Please introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. I'm Edward Egalinsky. I head up our global sales for Direxion. I've been with the firm for 14 years. Just a little background on Direxion. Direxion is a US-based, primarily ETF provider. For those out there that are active traders, Direxion's ranked as one of the top 20 US ETF providers in terms of assets under management, and I'm happy to be here today to share some of my thoughts with you.
Tell me about your broad leverage and inverse ETFs that you do. What kind of products that your popular ETFs are?
As I mentioned, we have over 100 ETFs that are leveraged in inverse. They're magnified short-term trading vehicles. What we're seeing in popularity, particularly in the APAC region, is a lot of interest in trading tech, AI, as well as semiconductors. But beyond that, also the gold miners, the gold mining stocks, and junior gold miners. China's equity markets have rallied significantly this year, along with your Korean equity markets. So a lot of traders like to trade leverage in inverse in those markets as well. We have a big Fed meeting this week. So a lot of people like to trade pre and post the Fed meetings. And what they say, they like to trade 20-plus year Treasury ETFs as well. And of course, the broader US market, the S&P 500,
Yes.
a lot
Very
of interest
popular.
in the APAC region as well on that.
Among those ETFs that you mentioned, on the first quarter of this year, what do you think is the most interesting sector that our Korean investor will be interested in?
Fourth quarter, are you referring to? Well, again, you have a lot of geopolitical risk right now. So certainly tech and semiconductors come to mind, whether a trader has a bullish or bearish view on that. So there's a focus on tech and semis as a result of the trade talks and tariffs, what the resolution is there, as well as concerns within the US about security on exporting certain chips globally. So that's definitely a major area as well. What the Fed does in the United States in terms of how many rate cuts. Right now, there's probably one baked in the cake, so to speak, in the upcoming meeting. But if the Fed decides to be one and done on rate cuts, the market could sell off. So we'll continue to see interest in broad indices, both US. Now, we're talking about for our products, our leverage and inverse products, our short-term tactical trading vehicles. So they're not going to be for everybody. So somebody that's staring at their screen day to day, these will probably be appropriate for if they're trading off of headlines and news.
I see. Very good. So, as mentioned, the Korean investors love the 2-3 leverage ETFs as well as the inverse ETFs. Is there any other countries that are very similar to Korean investors who like the high risk taking as well?
Sure. I mean, I think throughout the APAC region, you have a lot of short-term tactical traders, the United States as well. So I think it's more of a global aspect to it. With technology today, and I know we touched on this, you're getting information real time. A lot of your clientele want to trade off that news, whether they think the market's going up or down short term. We have the tools for that, but these should be monitored every day. So that's the one thing with these vehicles, that they have to have an understanding of how the mechanisms of leverage and inverse ETFs work. And Kiwoom's been a great partner with us in terms of the education aspect of that.
Just in addition, recently in London, they launched the single stock leverage ETFs. Does it seem to be a threat to Direxion, or it's okay?
Well, it's a different marketplace. I know that people have choices, especially in the Korean markets. We feel, though, our pedigree, our experience, we've been at this 27 plus years. I had hair when I first started Direxion 14 years ago. And we've been in the leverage and inverse ETF space since 2008. So we're really one of the pioneers in the leverage and inverse space, and certainly tracking whatever our daily objective or what that underlying index or single stock provides. I think we have the expertise and the core competencies that maybe some of those other groups may not have that type of experience.
Also, when Korean investors are allowed to trade 24 hours anytime soon, is that I guess it will be a very positive influence on Direxion's as well?
I would think so. Most of the activity that we see with our products, since they're US based for the most part, are traded mostly from a volume standpoint during US hours. So to have that flexibility of trading off hours outside the US, I think would only add to the potential volume of our products.
So always trading a lot will help, I guess, both QM and direction as well.
We hope so. That's good for the partnership for sure.
For sure. Also, when we see from the KSD lineup on the US market, and also our clients, they love to trade your semiconductor ETFs. And for the on beyond the semiconductor ETF professional, maybe, which AI tech will be as much as our investor to look at, as well as the apart from the Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix.
Well, let's look at it. There are a number of ways you could trade semiconductors. One is through the ICE Semiconductor Index. That's a broad basket of semiconductor stocks, about 30 stocks. But also you could trade individual stocks, especially in the US. There are plenty of chip makers that are involved in AI. The biggest bellwether is NVIDIA, but there are other names as well, from AMD to Micron to Qualcomm to Broadcom, just to name a few.
Yeah.
So there's a number of ways you could trade that if you want to express a magnified view with single stock. Those are the ways to play it as well. Certainly Palantir also has been a major winner in the AI space thus far.
Interesting, because when I saw the lineup on your semiconductor ETFs, it was mostly American semiconductor companies. Is there a reason why?
Korean investors would love to see US single stocks traded when their most volume occurs. Those type of products that people could trade because those stocks are on the US exchanges.
Do you maybe plan to maybe add Samsung Electronics or SK Hynix as well into those ETFs as well? Or is it internally have set of rules to only put certain US stocks in that ETF?
Well, I think we're looking at the different global equity markets and single stocks within different regions. If they have an ADR in the US, it makes it easier to trade. But I think the key is with Samsung and Hynix, if there is a way that we could add value and differentiate in terms of providing exposure to that active trader, yes, we would consider doing that. But also if it's being done in the local markets, trading during the hours that there's most volume. In the Korean market, in the case of Samsung Electronics and Hynix, they might not be as much added value of launching those type of vehicles.
I'm not sure if it's in the same in United States as well, but for Korean investors, they get investment points from the influencers like President Donald Trump or Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So recently it got quite a little bit, but today Elon Musk invested $1 billion on Tesla and came up to the noticeable up on the Tesla. Do you think they'll get issues on the Tesla like this for how long, or is there any other people to look when they get investment ideas?
Well, I think in regards to Tesla, certainly Elon Musk is a polarizing figure, and there's always headlines. In regards to what you mentioned, the $1 billion that he's going to purchase in his family foundation, I believe, and that gives investors confidence, at least in the short term. But when you look at Tesla, if you value it as an electric vehicle maker, it's very lofty in terms of its multiple right now. But a lot of traders look at Tesla beyond that, AI and robotics, and it's more of that story stock that gives it its high valuation right now. But when you look at traders, some of them might be taking profits. Tesla's up 25% this month so far, and is up about 85% off its low point in early April. So you would hope in some cases, if people timed it right, that they would take profits maybe on the bull side, and some people might even initiate a bear position if they feel that Tesla's due to pull back. But right now, Tesla's been trending higher, and the bulls are certainly winning out, at least short term.
So maybe it's better to see the stock's core foundation and what it does rather than all the buzz in the market? Is that what you recommend?
Well, I think with our leverage and inverse ETFs, you have to look at every day as a new day, and you got to monitor these daily. So all of that volatility, if it's directional volatility, people could trade off of that. Now, that's different than an investor that's buying Tesla and holding it for a long period of time. Those are not our vehicles, but that's if you just bought Tesla on its own. And that's really something that somebody has to decide what the valuations are. And is Tesla going to be able to maintain those lofty multiples? And is there enough growth there?
Good point. So recently, or from the last year, a lot of Chinese stocks hasn't been looked at due to United States stocks, and the leverage and inverses are very good to look at. But recently, when DeepSeek have became the new AI tool, it beaten what we had expected rather than the whole China market. Can you give us some insight on that as well?
Sure. I think with DeepSeek, that definitely sprung Chinese equity markets higher. They've outperformed the U.S. markets this year. As you know, it's been tough sledding for people that have held, the FTSE, China 50, for example, relative to the S&P 500 and NASDAQ the last 10 years. So I think a lot of people might feel, is this the start of something that China could start outperforming the U.S.? And certainly China has a lot more room to go based on what the current valuations are. And they're not at record highs or close to that where the U.S. markets are. So there may be more upside for Chinese equities on a relative basis. But is the real estate market improving there? Also, is the government going to continue to step in stimulus-wise if it needs to? And then lastly, when you look at China, the weakening U.S. dollar. If that continues, some of those trends, China might continue to outperform. But a lot of people have been saying that for a long time, and the U.S. markets continue to outperform. So we'll see. The jury's still out on that. So people should really be vigilant when they're investing in any equity indice, whether it's U.S. or China or Korea, for example.
Not just the DeepSeek, but the currency-wise, and then the tax war-wise, we have to look at everything before we invest in on the China.
Yeah, I would definitely look at some of those factors. And then also the overarching thing is the geopolitical risk. The U.S.-China relations, if the trade tariffs are resolved, which hopefully they will be, that could be a good tailwind for Chinese equities.
For both any other country investment as well, I guess it could broaden up as well, not only the Chinese, I guess.
But potentially, yes. But from our vehicle standpoint, people are taking very short-term views. So in the case of China, anybody that's been riding the bull scenario, it's been a lucrative year or lucrative period. People that have been the bear thesis have been getting hurt significantly this year for the most part.
Interesting. So it's our last question.
Sure.
How does Direxion hope to approach Korean investors, and what do you envision in the Korean market?
Well, it is the largest market for us in the APAC region, so thank you.
Thank you.
And all your traders out there that utilize Direxion products. So the one thing that with the Korean investors is education. Kiwoom's done a great job. We've had a great partnership in terms of knowing how these vehicles work, that they're short-term active trading vehicles, they're trading tools, and that people should do their homework before they decide to make any trade or investment for that matter. And we'll continue to provide that education through your platform with Korean traders.
Thank you for coming here for a great time.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to coming back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.